Hello, and welcome to Pressing Buttons. I'm Hugo.
I'm Nick.
Another great week, another great episode coming at you. Episode 75. Woohoo, baby. That's 3 times 25. 75th.
You're really stretching on making the number of the episode be
I don't know.
something more important than it really is.
I feel like, 75 is a momentous occasion in number, but, like there's not a lot of fanfare for it. Not as big as 100, 50's halfway to 100. It's just 75. You just three quarters to 100. But anyways, yeah, episode 75. We are glad to be here as always every week. And we're going to be starting strong with some Baldur's Gate. We're going to start talking about Baldur's Gate this week. It's been a big release for a title that I wouldn't say not very known, except in the Steam community because it was in early access for 3 years. But it's one of the fastest selling games out there. It's peaked at 800,000 concurrent users on Steam, which I believe, makes it like the ninth most concurrent users a game has had on Steam, and is one of the biggest PC releases in 2023. And also that has shot it up the charts in PlayStation Network. Even though it hasn't been released, I believe it's going to be released early September. So pretty big numbers out there for Baldur's Gate. Obviously, you have a lot of these RPG titles that are coming out this year, but that had a lot more fanfare and a lot more, interest, like Starfield coming out in September as well. And then you also have like what's the other one? The Lariat one? The Larian?
Well, this is the Larian game. Their prior game, you mean? Divinity Original
Yeah,
Sin?
Divinity Original Sin. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you have those games, and obviously this one it has been a surprise, especially because, like I said, early access for 3 years, while they fixed up a lot of the stuff to have it fully released. And even though it still has its problems, it's doing so well because of all the options it gives you in terms of creating characters, in terms of solving puzzles, in terms of combat, and all that stuff. Definitely, I think it helps a lot, especially in this day and age where we release a lot of unfinished titles and they have to get patched up every week or two because there's so many bugs to it. And even though this has a lot of bugs, I feel like with the release, the developers have been very straightforward with the community and everybody knows what to expect out of it. And it still did great. I know you purchased it and you played a little bit of it. What are your feelings
Oh
towards
yeah,
it?
loving it, loving it. Definitely a much better RPG than Final Fantasy 15, or sorry, 16. I already forgot the
Damn.
number. I already forgot the right number of it because I'm so over that game. But
That's a low blow. Final Fantasy didn't even do anything to you, but continue.
exactly. Well, it kind of it took my money. That counts for something. But no, I think this is great. I think kind of like a couple things off the top of my mind is the fact that this is it's a largely single player. You can play it cooperatively, but I would kind of position it as mainly a single player turn based RPG. Uh, no no microtransactions. Like they were like very vocal. The developers were like super vocal around like you buy the game, you get everything. No microtransact. It's like kind of like how in the glory days of CD Projekt Red. Um, so they leaned in on that messaging and the fact that the game is gonna it's already like a huge success. It's one of the biggest titles on PC in 2023. Uh, it looks like it's going to be a big title on PlayStation 4 as well, or PlayStation 5 as well. So yeah, so that's cool. So I think that's like evidence that there is a market and an appetite for single player story role playing games. Not everything needs to be multiplayer, free to play, microtransactions, high acting action at all times. So I think it's a good thing. So I'm super happy that this game's selling very well. Um, what else? Yeah, I don't know. I think I've been playing. I think I got it. Yeah, so it came out on Thursday. Kind of depending on where in the world you live, and yeah, I've already played it like 20 hours or something. So like that was basically my weekend project was playing this game, and I've never really got into. I've played Divinity Original Sin and like similar titles in the past, and I play them for like a little bit, and I kind of get bored by them and move on. But like that just hasn't happened with this game. I think it's just so much more polished, easier to get into. The game looks incredible. The level of like flexibility and options you have with approaching every scenario is just like so fun and interesting. It might be the first game that I'm talking to every NPC because you don't know what's gonna happen. So and that like rarely happens. Like most games you play, you kind of like figure out the value of engaging with NPCs, and most of the time it's like not super engaging. So I just kind of like skip it or don't do it as much. But like this isn't one of those types of games at all. So really been enjoying my time. Maybe I'll save further thoughts for closing thoughts, but really good time. The other kind of interesting thing about it is you mentioned the game's been in early access for 3 years or something like that. So the game's been out. Some version of it's been out for a very long time. Uh, because of my track record with these types of games, I opted to like not do early access, and I'm like, I'll just wait for the finished product, and if it's great, then I'll have a good time with it at that point. But I think it's like unbelievable that the game's been out for so many years, and then it comes out and it still has this like giant like marketing sales event that happens, because you think like most people who really want to play this game had already purchased it through early access, but like it's not like. So I think it's like an interesting kind of proof point for early access, and for certain games that might actually be like the best way to get a version of the game out, test the waters, get feedback, take your time. When it's ready, push it out there. And because the product is going to be so good, by the time you release it, there'll just be like a lot of positive word of mouth and critical reception that you'll get like this other big sales event that happens. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Really impressive game.
Yeah, and big props to like you said, early access. There's been a couple titles that have released on early access on Steam and have done pretty well. The biggest one I can recall would be Hades. Hades was in early access for a while they updated it, and then when it got its full release, obviously it became such a big hit. Even won a couple Game of the Year awards and a lot of awards for the cast and the writing and the combat and all that stuff. So definitely this early access works. I think a lot of studios could learn from this in terms of, like I was saying earlier, releasing these unfinished games that turns off a lot of people as opposed to gain a lot of fans. And very, very, very surprising, just because it's a game that I think has done more with word of mouth. And we always talk about this marketing. You have all these big games like Call of Duties or your Final Fantasies, your Starfield, all your Spider-Man, all those games that just have this big marketing push. And that's how people get their eyes on it. That's how people hear about it. That's how people choose to purchase the games. But this one, 3 years of early access, and then just gets released, and everybody's talking about how good it is and the choices and all that stuff, and that's all the marketing it needed. And I think that's great for the community, because at the end of the day, you just need your game to be a good solid game and people to enjoy it and tell their friends about it, and their friends will get it. And I think we've seen that a lot with a couple games this year, obviously, like Remnant 2, that had double the Remnants 1 player base when it released, and that's a lot to do with word of mouth. You have this game, so I'm glad to see it, and hopefully we get a lot more games like that where people see the quality of the game over the marketing, and they tell their friends and they purchase it, and it gives more options for the future, so they could develop more games like this. So looking forward to it. All right, moving on. We are going to be talking some Evo. So for those of you who don't know, even though we've been talking about it for a bit and how jealous we are of not being able to attend, But basically, right now, Evo's taking place. It's finishing up as we're recording the podcast. They just finished up Tekken Top 6. Congrats to Arlen Ash, who is a two-time champion at Evo. So we're going to be discussing some stuff that they announced this weekend over at Evo. If you get the chance, also go back to the videos. There was a lot of good competitions, a lot of good fights in there. First off is Project L. For those unaware, it's the fighting game that Riot, the makers of League of Legends and Valorant, are developing. It's going to be starting characters from the League of Legends universe. So far, we have Ari, Jinx, Katarina, Darius, Echo, and Ilaoi as confirmed characters. And over the weekend at Evo, they announced a new playable character, which is Yasuo, which is one of, I guess, people's favorite characters in League. He's a big staple of the franchise. He's a samurai with a sword, so everybody loves him. And also, for those unaware, Project L is a 2v2 fighting game where you can play as both characters and control both characters, or you and a friend can control two of the characters, fighting against two people controlling two other characters. So very unique take on this. The game itself looks pretty fun. I know from seeing some impressions of the people who are at Evo and have gotten their hands on, as well as a lot of content creators that Riot was able to showcase the game for. They seem to be enjoying it, the mechanics itself of the game and the 2v2 fighting. And then the characters itself, League is known for having wide, I believe it's like 150 to 180 champions. I forget the exact amount, but it's a very, very high amount of champions. So there's a big champion pool of characters to pick up for fighting games. So far, these are all your generic fighting types. It'll be interesting to see if in the future they do kind of stray away from this and do kind of like the magician's type or anything like that. So it's gonna be really interesting. Your thoughts on this? Are you liking what you're seeing from Riot? I know you're not a big League fan, but this is something else.
No, I mean the game looks super fun. I'm not. I've played League of Legends a little bit here and there, but I'm by no means an expert in that game and don't really know most of the characters. So. But I think that could be totally fine. I mean, I think the game just looks really fun. Obviously I haven't played it myself, but they did I think this was like a week or so ago. So obviously they're doing a lot of stuff at Evo, but I think leading up to Evo, they did kind of like a marketing thing where they brought a bunch of like influencers and fighting game players, professional fighting game players, and brought them to their office, and they were able to play a build. And it seems, I don't think it was paid promo. Like I think they like genuinely just wanted the feedback from that, from those types of people, and it seems to be like pretty positive. So I think everything's looking good. I think the thing, and maybe you're not that surprised by this, but the thing I'm most interested in is the business model. So. I'm sure there's been other
business with you. All business with you.
All business. I think I can't off the top of my head think of any, but I know there's been other like free to play fighting games, but I think this will be the first what I would call like a AAA, like very large budget fighting game that's going to be free to play. Whereas Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Guilty Gear, so on and so forth, like you need to buy all of those games, and then they generally have bundles and skins and new characters and whatever that they release over time that you gotta pay additional money for. So to me, I'm pretty sure, maybe they've confirmed it, but I'm pretty confident this is going to be a free to play game similar to League of Legends, and you're going to need to buy a certain.
And Valorant. I believe Valorant is free as
I think
well.
Valorant too. Yeah. I think that's just Riot's general philosophy, is just building for scale and have it be free, and then just let people kind of pick and choose whatever characters and skins and other cosmetics that they want. So to me, it's like, okay, will that work for a fighting game? Yes or no? and I don't know, kind of like I think it will, but I think it kind of remains to be seen. I don't think it's going to be like League of Legends scale, but I think they can get to a big enough size where it's actually like a meaningful, meaningful, profitable business for them. But that's kind of what I'm most fascinated about this game. And because it's free, I'll definitely like try it out and see if I like it.
Yeah, I actually think it will succeed if it's a free to play. The main difference, I would say, I would want to compare this to what was that Warner Brothers one? Fuck, I just forgot about it.
Multiverses.
Multiverses. There you
Oh
go.
yeah, Multiverses was. I mean, that's like
Yeah.
more of like a party brawler
No, no, but
thing, but
the reason I would compare it would be because it's a free to play game. I think it had potential. Obviously, we don't know yet because it got released into out of the beta, and then it got unreleased. So it's going to release next year. So that's its own quirky thing. I think they just because the characters aren't really as recognizable, even though it's strong IPs like Bugs Bunny and Batman and Superman and all that stuff. I think because it is more of a party game, people didn't take it seriously enough, and it wasn't as popular. Whereas with this, even though it's a free to play game, it's League. The community for League is one of the strongest, especially in the esports genre. Obviously, I still watch a lot of League of Legends competitive esports. Right now is the playoffs, so I still watch a lot of that. Valorant's also very big in the esports community, so I think just for the fact of that, the push that Riot will have in this, especially as we see more and more with Evo and with all these other competitions, how big the fighting game community is, and it's getting, and the need for more competition and more games to be in there that are highly competitive and get more eyes on it. I think that big Riot push is going to just make it overwhelming. So I think it will do well. And, the money's in the skins. People are going to just be buying skins. Even I buy skins. And I hate spending money on games more than just purchasing the game. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see.
and there's money in the money because I think Capcom I think kind of stepped up the game with prize pools. So for esports and for people actually being like motivated to want to win competitions. Historically, fighting games have had like basically no money, like not really meaningful money in play. Capcom did kind of tweak that for Street Fighter 6. So I think is it like $1 million? I think like the top player
With
gets
the
in
Capcom
Capcom
Pro Tour.
Cup.
Yeah, the Pro Tour.
Yeah, the Pro Tour. But I wonder, like, so I know Riot just has such a strong presence with esports, and I think League of Legends is the number one, or at a minimum, like one of the top games for like having just like very large prize pools that creates a lot of, again, like motivation for people to want to like pull together teams and compete to win that money. So I wonder what their equivalent prize pool is going to be if it's $1 million for Street Fighter 6. I wonder what that price tag is going to be for Project L, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be like way bigger than that.
Yeah, and like I said, one last point is just that they're really committed to it. We can see from the developer videos that they have a lot of big names from the fighting game community working on the game to make it a truly great competitive fighter. So that's really good to see as well. Next thing we want to talk about is Tekken 8. Over this weekend, they announced two new characters. One is going to be Raven, who's a shadow ninja. I believe he's a previous character. He's been in a couple games. And the other one is Azucena, the coffee queen. And she's from Peru. So pretty cool to see some new characters. They look pretty fun in itself. You had Harada-san, who is the producer, longtime producer of Tekken, out there announcing these characters. The game looks great. Obviously, we were talking, Nick and I, we were talking earlier about Tekken and how long Tekken 7 specifically, and how long it's been out there since 2015, and obviously with Tekken 8 coming out soon, we don't have a release date yet for it, but it seems to be ramping up, especially since they just did closed network tests. Like it's going to be announced for release pretty soon, and it's looking much better. Obviously, the graphics look great, and it being one of the mainstays, one of the staples of Evo, along with like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. It'll be good to see it next year as Tekken 8 takes over after the retirement of Tekken 7. Your thoughts on these two new characters and Tekken 8 overall?
Uh, yeah, it looks good. I think Azucena was probably one of the best new character reveal trailers I've seen in a long, not just for Tekken, but just for like fighting games in general.
I agree.
I'm
I agree.
I'm highly biased because I'm a big coffee guy, and just like she's the coffee queen, and she's it's kind of like a very playful character with like high energy and just like is always talking about coffee and how do you take your coffee and all this stuff. So pretty wacky, pretty wacky like character idea, like for that just to be like this person's all about coffee. And also like she just looks cool. Like she just like she's very rhythmic and kind of dancing around and like evades attacks with like dance moves basically. So she just like looks like a ton of fun to play. So yeah, and they just did that like right before we started recording. So I'm still trying to like process the two trailers, but also like the levels looked like like very dynamic and incredible. So yeah, good trailers. I think I've talked before. Like I'm much more of a Street Fighter guy than a Tekken guy. Like I generally like buy the Tekken games and then I'll play around with them for like a little bit, and then I'll kind of stop. But I'll still continue watching all the like big tournaments and things like that. So I like watching it. But so I'll probably get a Tekken. The next Tekken game whenever they release it. I'll probably get it and have a good time. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and it's and we talked about this earlier as well, that it's like very interesting with these character introductions. Like she could totally be like a cringy character. She's like right on the edge of being super cute or super cringy.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, man. And like I think this one, I think they like nailed it where it's kind of this zany, like I think it is like a cringe character, but like in a likable way. So
Yeah,
I was
who
looking.
was the other one that you mentioned that came off the
I
opposite
think
way?
yeah, there was like Lucky Chloe, like the Lucky Chloe reveal. So that was for the prior game. Like I don't think she's gonna be in Tekken 8 because I think basically everyone universally hates her. But I think that was like another character where they're trying to make it be this like again kind of like wacky character that but it's like nobody likes her. So it's a tough balance to find. But I think they got it right with this character with the Coffee Queen.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk these days on the internet. You definitely gotta be careful.
Yeah.
All right. Next big news out of Evo is Killer Instinct. So they did a 10-year anniversary Killer Instinct little tournament with some of the top Killer Instinct characters. Obviously, I've been a big fan of Killer Instinct since I played it for Super Nintendo. Very well, I'm old as fuck too. So a lot of people might not remember these or never played these unless they played the Xbox One Killer Instinct. But obviously, very recognizable characters. It was basically another fighting game in a big era of fighting games with Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and so on and so on. But yeah, they announced there's just going to be a big patch that will be released. It's going to have a balance update. So cool, you'll be able to play some balanced characters. They're going to improve the matchmaking, and it's going to have Xbox 4K support for the Series X and Series S. So this is a big thing. Obviously, there's a lot of older fighting games that people want with newer rollback code and stuff like that, or just to get some sort of update for balance or anything like that. So it's kind of cool to see that Microsoft itself is kind of supporting the community, and they hosted this event for the 10-year anniversary, and also announced that they're going to be doing some updates to the game to make it so people come back and play more of it. Were you a big Killer Instinct fan? What do you think of this new news?
I mean, I think it's good news. I did play a lot of the original Killer Instinct on Super Nintendo, but that was back when I was a kid and had literally no idea what I was doing, and I just found enjoyment in like punching my friend, who was playing. So, I have good memories of the franchise for sure. I did play, courtesy of Game Pass. I have played Killer Instinct on PC for a little bit, but I don't know. I just couldn't really get into it. But I do know it has like a very vocal fan base. So I'm pretty sure what they want is a sequel, but I think this is the next best thing, just to get kind of like a vamped up version of the game that they love. So good announcement. I am interested. I think maybe I get more invested in if there's a new game in the franchise. Maybe I would get like more kind of dialed into that, but not so much the current one.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Like with Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, that they've had so many entries in the series, and then this one that was also a very popular one. Unfortunately, with the shakeups at Rare and all that stuff, and then them moving over to Microsoft, and Microsoft not really focusing on fighting games, them more focusing on like shooters and stuff. And even though they had a hold of this franchise, that they kind of did away with it and didn't care about it. Where in another universe, you could probably see this continue getting more entries in itself, and probably be very popular. So hopefully this brings a renaissance, especially with the way Microsoft is right now, where they would need a big fighting game franchise that people recognize. So that'd be cool if they bring it back and just make a sequel. All right, next big game is Under Night in Birth 2. That's a lot of words. I don't think they necessarily belong together, but that's a video game. It's a very popular video game developed by Arc System Works and French Bread. They just announced a sequel. I'm not a big I don't play this game. I think this was the I knew of the name. I didn't even know it was a fighting game. I thought it was an RPG. So it's pretty interesting. But it is a very cult hit, I would say. It's one of those where you see at these tournaments that always pops up, obviously, because you do have a big contingency of fans that enjoyed this game, and they had the right crowd, because I believe there was a big response from a lot of the fans. They really enjoyed this announcement. You got any thoughts on this? Or you got as much thoughts as I had on this?
I mean, I own the game.
You own this game? Well, the first game.
Well, the first one, yeah, the first one, not the one that hasn't been released yet.
Wow, shocking.
Yeah, maybe that's just what I just buy fighting games, even though I don't really play them. But no, I think this was it last year, or no? I think it was 2 years ago. So I think it was a main stage Evo game, and it was like a big deal because this is kind of like more, I would call it kind of more cult classic. Like, it definitely has like a strong following, but it's kind of like on the smaller side of fighting games. So I think it was kind of a big deal that it was like a main stage game, and that was actually the first time I heard about it. I'm like, oh, I've never heard of this. Like, that's kind of a big deal. So that was my call to action to actually like check out the franchise and play the game. So I think that was like maybe I can't remember if it was like 2 or 3 years ago, but that's when I first found out about the franchise. It's a fun game. I had a quick and enjoyable time with it, but for me, like, I don't know if I'm that excited about the sequel.
Well, some fans are, so good for them.
Yeah.
And maybe it will become one of those where people see more of it. And then we have Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. So
now we're talking.
We're talking some Nickelodeon guys. They just announced more of the fighting game mechanics that will be taking place in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl Part 2. Some new characters. You got Plankton in there. You got just different moves. Obviously, this is more of your arcadey brawler, a la Super Smash Brothers, a la Multiverse. So I know that a lot of people enjoyed the first one, and obviously they made a sequel, so with more characters and stuff like that. Very interesting. There's always that that void, I would say, of this type of game that's always looking to be filled. Obviously, with Smash Brothers being kind of the mainstay one, but they haven't released a new one in a while, and Nintendo's very kind of, not good at letting people enjoy it and host tournaments and stuff of it. So you always need something to fill this type of market. Any thoughts on this? I know you're a big Smash guy and you kind of dominate.
Well, I mean, I don't just to set expectations. It's because all of you guys are so bad at Smash Brothers games, so that's why
I'm glad you said it.
I almost always win. But if if it's like a competent Smash player, I'm sure they would kick my ass. But uh, yeah, not really. Like I kind of find it funny that they like do announcements like for these games at Evo. Like I feel like it's like an audience kind of mismatch. I don't know. Like I feel like for this
What do you
game,
mean?
like
What
it
do you
would be
mean?
better. I think it would, and I guess maybe it's if it's just like talking about the game and having like some interesting news to share, like that's fine. But I feel like this is more better suited to like Summer Game Fest or like one of those types of things, like more mass market things. Because I view this as more of like it's like a party game, super casual, fighting mechanics. So I don't know. I think it's fine. I just find it kind of funny.
No, but
Uh,
that's what I think they do them at these things. Obviously, they want to, take the mantle of what Smash Brothers does, and this would be the best exposure. Because otherwise, if you do hear it at like a Summer's Game Fest or Game Awards or something like that, you kind of brush it off because it's like, oh, it's just a Smash Brothers clone. I don't want to pay attention to this.
yeah, but that's fine though. Like, are there people actually competing? And like Smash Brothers is an actual game people compete in. It's just that Nintendo makes it difficult for people to do that. I don't. Are people like? Is there a tournament for All Star Brawl? Like, could
If
you?
if there isn't, there's gonna be one now. Yeah.
I'll check after the recording to see if you can actually like register to compete in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl.
Yeah. Well, if there isn't, there will be one. So we'll see.
Okay.
And then some breaking news, which just premiered right now after the end of the Tekken finals. And sorry if we get it wrong, but it looks like they just announced for Mortal Kombat 1 that Reptile will be a playable character. I know Ed Boon has been teasing it for a little bit on his Twitter that Reptile will be a playable character. I believe they showed Reptile and two others. I didn't catch the name of the two other characters, but that's pretty cool. I know they've got a lot of the, Mortal Kombat ninjas in there. Obviously, you got Scorpion and Sub Zero, and now you have Smoke and Reptile. So pretty cool to see that. And he actually does turn into a reptile, so that's pretty cool. I know he only did that for the fatality, I think, in the beginning, but it looks like he turns into a reptile there. So that's pretty cool to see out of Evo. Obviously, Mortal Kombat being about a month and a half away from release, we're going to obviously start seeing a lot more of the characters and the full roster. So that's pretty cool to see. There you go. Look at that. Breaking news as it happens.
And they're doing the Guilty Gear Strive trailer right now, so
Yeah, look at that.
maybe we'll learn something about that.
We're on top of these things. New special moves for characters. Guilty Gear. You heard it here first. If you're hearing it,
Yeah.
unless you heard it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's it for all the Evo stuff. We wish we had, because we're pretty sure they're going to be announcing something for Street Fighter, which we love. We play a lot of on Discord. If you don't know, catch us there. But we're pretty sure later on at Street Fighter Top 6, they'll probably do some sort of announcement for any new characters or just costumes or anything like that. We've seen a couple of the artwork for upcoming costumes and it looks pretty cool. So keep a lookout on that. Keep a lookout. Maybe we'll go next year. Evo 2024. Pressing buttons. You wish.
We have to go and we have to enter into the tournament.
Yeah, we got to get better and enter. It'll be our
So
goal.
yeah.
We'll place 600 and we'll be fine. 600 out of
That's
900,
fine.
not bad.
I just want to win at least one
Yeah, win one.
round, not
Win
even a
one.
full match, just one round, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, you get partnered against Punk or
Oh, dude,
right.
there was this hilarious clip of do you know Justin Wong?
Yeah.
So he was playing against someone in Street Fighter 6, and it was like some random dude, and he like, and it was like on stream, so there was a clip of this, and it's absolutely hilarious. But this random person like gets one round off Justin Wong, and he starts like clapping, like
He was patting himself. He was happy.
he was like
Yeah.
patting himself on the back by clapping, and then you can see the fury in Justin's face, and then he immediately perfects him, and then he basically gets like another, almost does like a double perfect basically on him after the guy like clapped. So I'm just like,
He pissed off a Street
damn,
Fighter
dude, yeah,
god, man.
you can't piss off one of the gods like that.
Yeah, I saw the clip, and I think it's a widely known thing that he gets pissed when people like clap like that when
I
he's playing
guess,
against
yeah,
them, because
yeah. It's a
Shen,
pop, like you can't pop off until you won. Like you can't pop off until you win.
it's
Like
the
around isn't anything.
it's the gamer's folly, because a lot of gamers are like, oh yeah, I got you, and they haven't even, like, bro, you haven't even won the game. Like, calm
Yeah, yeah.
down. I've succumbed to it. I've been on the other end, well, on that end of it, where like I count my chickens before they hatch. So don't do that. Even though I will probably continue doing that. All right. Moving on. One big news that I wanted to talk about. This is kind of from the Hugo files, because Nick probably will hate me for this. But it'll be good to see his point of view in terms of the business side of it and the financial side of it. But Destiny did a big state of the game. They do this every year. They like to look back and see what they've accomplished with the goals of what they want out of the game. Obviously, being a live service game, it goes through a lot of changes as the years progress. A lot of system changes, a lot of mechanic changes, a lot of currency changes. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Obviously, people will have all sorts of feelings. So they did a state of the game to kind of wrap up and see if they've accomplished a big four goals that they had set for the year. Something like the power balancing and the story mechanics, and the community stuff. And I think this mostly negative. This got mostly negative results. The big thing being, there's a lot of things in Destiny that have kind of been put to the side because they're focused on advancing the game, advancing the story, and sometimes with these live service games you kind of have to give up on some things. So one of these big things is Gambit, which is like a PvP PvE mode inside the game. It hasn't gotten an update, well, a big update, in about 5-6 years. The other thing is PvP, which has taken a back burner. Obviously, we've discussed this before on the podcast, that their big team lead for PvP and a lot of their PvP developers have moved on to Marathon, which is their new PvP extraction shooter that will be releasing whenever it releases. So the community got very angry at those two things. No update for Gambit, the PvP PvE mode, and no really big updates for PvP in terms of fixing the matchmaking, fixing the guns. They only announced one new map and one new game mode. And to this I say, people need to calm down, because there was a big uproar. Obviously, I follow a lot of the Destiny content creators, and there was just a lot of like, oh, I've given up on Destiny. Oh, I can't believe Bungie's doing this. Oh, I can't believe Bungie's not doing this. It's a lot of crying. A lot of people need to stop crying, because one, there's a big showcase happening on the 22nd. If you got a big showcase happening on the 22nd, you're not going to reveal all your cards. You're not going to say everything on a state of the game. You're saving everything for the 22nd. Now, if the 22nd comes and they don't announce shit, which I don't think they will, if the 22nd comes and you're not satisfied, then come with your shit. I think it's too early. Obviously, it's a live service game. I always say with Destiny, you got to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. Even though people like to complain and say that the game is dead and this and all that, it is one of the ones that have the highest concurrent players all the time. Every time there's a new expansion, you have about over 100,000 players. I believe the last expansion,
Not as many as Baldur's Gate 3.
not as many as Baldur's Gate 3, but that'll die off, don't worry. But
I don't know.
Lightfall, like even though it was a subpar campaign and they did a bad job storytelling wise of continuing the story where you kind of don't know what the fuck is going on and you have to do things that weren't obvious to kind of figure it out. I think it's still a great game. Obviously, people will be mad about it, but it's hard with live service games. And Destiny 2 is one of the most successful ones, and they're not gonna get everything right, but they are working on fixing it. So I think a lot of people were mad about it. Just give it to the showcase. I will definitely come back to it and and give my thoughts on the showcase. I think obviously they're trying to wrap up whatever story they're trying to tell by the end of the year with the big final shape expansion. So you want to see what the future of Destiny is like, what the story is going to be, what does this do, what's it going to do? Because they say they're not making Destiny 3, they're just going to continue updating this. So that's a future. I want to see what they think it's going to look like. And on the on the financial side of it, they were saying that they don't have the time or the money or the teams to be able to create like new armor sets, which a lot of people have been clamoring for because they only really make the paid for armor sets, and they just got bought by Sony and all that stuff. So what do you think? Do you think it's feasible for a company that seemingly has money to be able to say, "Oh, we can't spend money on creating new assets"? Do you think that's a feasible thing?
Well, I mean, it's just a resource allocation question, and they're just reallocating resources to a different game. So it's not a matter of like spending money. It's just like where are they putting their existing game developers?
Well,
So unless they're like going to meaningfully expand the number of people employed at their company, which maybe they could do that. Maybe that's what fans are thinking they should do if they actually want to have multiple games in the market, multiple live service games in the market. So, but yeah, it just kind of seems like there's a shiny new object. It's Marathon. They're just gonna try to set that one up for success. I'm sure, like Destiny's been around for a very long time. I'm sure people are just like internally at Bungie are probably like, please get me the fuck away from Destiny. I want to do something new. I want a blank sheet of paper. I want to create a whole new thing. So like I'm sure there's an element of that happening as well. Um so yeah, I don't know it's kind of what so this thing was called State of the Game. Was this more of like it's intentionally like a retrospective, like
yes, like they
what has
said,
happened, and then there's a separate event that's like this is the future.
yeah, they set goals for the game, and then they go back into it and analyze. Hey, this did we hit the goals? Yes or no? But the showcase itself is what the future is. So
Yeah.
that's why I think people just like are mad for no reason. Now,
Yeah,
one
I feel like I don't know, that's an interesting approach where like looking to Final Fantasy as an example, they like combine it, right? Like they do these like letter from the producer live things where and they're very frequent, they're like fairly frequent, and it's kind of like more of a hybrid, right? Where they're like, hey, here's kind of like what's been happening, here's like some things we're fixing, here's like some new stuff we're gonna launch. And I feel like that's a better, it almost kind of like diffuses the negativity because you're giving people like some like other things they get excited about instead of just like dwelling on like not hitting goals or other like negative things that are like potentially happening with the game. So I find that kind of an interesting approach, and I would expect that format that Bungie does almost like it just like it'll just generate more negativity than is actually like appropriate.
well, I
Just because
also
everyone's going to be focusing on like all the things that like didn't happen, and I also feel like that's just like that's like a level of transparency that I don't really think adds that much value
well the thing is too
to.
with how we've talked about before how some of the community kind of goes overboard and starts doing dumb shit, but they do want to be transparent with the community in a sense because it is a live service games, and then what people they want people to know like, yeah, we're working on stuff. We're working on this every time, and they also do especially when it's coming around to these type of things where they do the showcases. They always do like every week they'll release like big articles, just kind of outlining what they're going to be doing with the game content, like the gameplay content, like what's changing or how they're making it better, or like weapon tuning or ability tuning or anything like that. So it's always a lead up. So I think they just kind of caught everybody in between. They did the state of the game last week. They're going to be doing like a weapons tune up right down next week, and then they're going to do like an ability one the week after, which will lead into the Gamescom. And obviously, they want to save everything big. Like there's going to be new class abilities. There's going to be LFG stuff. There's going to be new campaign stuff. So like they do want to save that, but they don't want people to just wait for this one thing. It's too much to kind of just showcase the other parts that aren't really necessarily groundbreaking, but help the game better. The other thing I did want to ask you is, do you think they are spreading themselves too thin? Just because, like you said, they're allocating some people to Marathon. The rumors are still out there that they're working on another single player experience or just gameplay experience called Matter. That's the code name for it. And then obviously with them being acquired by Sony, they're also helping Sony with all their live service games in terms of just like, managing it and making it better, or giving their opinions on it like they did for the Last of Us factions. Do you think that they're spreading themselves too thin and that'll come back and bite them in the ass? They only have 1,500 people in the studio, so.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly sounds like it. Yeah, again, like unless they're like dramatically scaling up headcount, like I don't think and I know they've been talking about this for like, I want to say like 10 years. Like, I remember going back a long time ago and Bungie making statements around like, we want to be a multi-game studio, like we want to have multiple franchises, we want to exploit that intellectual property across every channel, including movies. And so they've been talking about that for a pretty long time, but they've really just been like pumping out Destiny 2 content for the most part. So I think it was with Marathon where that was kind of like the step in the direction of them fulfilling that vision from like a very, very long time ago. And I'm not like a game development expert, but like you just don't do that without buying other studios or like organically growing your own headcount to be able to develop multiple games at the same time. So, and yeah, and hopefully over time it's not taking up too much it's not too much of a burden, but there's definitely going to be some like post acquisition like integration kind of like headaches and things of just like trying to figure out how Bungie needs to integrate and kind of work as a part of PlayStation Studios overall. So they're probably like deep into that stuff right now, but hopefully that'll go away over time and it's not taking up too much time, and it's actually synergy is the word that's always used. So let's see if those synergies actually pan out or not. Spoiler is they literally never ever pan out based on data on mergers and acquisitions. So so I don't know. So it certainly sounds like they're spreading themselves too thin, and I think maybe you're feeling that through with what they're kind of how they're managing Destiny right now.
Yeah, if you don't play Destiny, then everything's fine because you'll probably get more
I'm
games.
probably
Yeah,
I know I've been kind of down on that because like I've tried to get into the game. There's certain elements of it that I really like, but I can't deal with all the other things that I don't like about it.
there's too much shit everywhere.
There's just too much shit, and it's just like, so I'm just kind of done with that game. But I'm very interested in Marathon. I'm
Yeah.
not like a big extraction shooter guy, but I do, and I think I've been saying this for a while. Like I think the reason PlayStation bought them is because if they did, if of people who can create live service games, if you were to give, a studio a blank sheet of paper with a lot of resources, like which studio on planet Earth could deliver something remarkable? And I would like to think that, but Bungie is on like on a short list of studios that can do that. So I'm very excited about kind of what's next, but I'm so far over, so done with Destiny. So
Well, only time will tell, and obviously we're gonna wait for the showcase on August 22nd. I think it's one of the first ones or for Gamescom. So we'll wait for that, and then we'll give our thoughts there. Hopefully, maybe they'll give you a fix for your ability to get into Destiny, because they've been working on that. They want to get more people.
no, I can't. I've tried so many times, dude. And every time they're always like, "Oh yeah, this is for new people coming back or for new players. Like this is it." And it's just like
It'll click at one point.
it's just a nightmare.
I think it'll
Oh,
click at one
and then
point.
I always have to pay like $40 again or whatever it is. Like I always have to pay more money to like try to get back into the game.
Says the guy who
And
buys every Naughty Dog game, even though he doesn't play it, and who just literally said buys a bunch of fighting games that he doesn't even play.
but those are all different games, different experiences.
Oh my god, that's why that's why it's the
It's
live service
different.
games.
It's different.
It changes. All
It
right,
changes. People can change. Games
Yeah.
can change.
games can change. I think that's it for our Destiny talk. I think that's more Destiny that Nick wanted to talk about than he needed to talk
I
about
loved it.
in the last couple months.
I loved it.
All right, so that does it for all the news that we wanted to discuss. Some really exciting stuff. We're gonna move on to some closing thoughts. I'll start off. Watched a couple movies. I watched 3 movies this week. Really exciting movies. Crazy opinions on all 3. I watched Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I watched Joyride, and I watched The Flash. Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I'm kind of over the Transformers film franchise, but I do love the lore of it. I've said this before. Anything that has like crazy amount of lore and stuff like that, I really enjoy. And obviously, from growing up in the '90s and watching the Beast Wars cartoons and seeing Optimus Primal out there is really exciting stuff. And I think they did a great job just showing these Beast Transformers in the movie. In terms of story, wasn't that great. But, robots that turn into things, great. I also watched Joyride, which is about these 2 Chinese girls. One of them's adopted, and they take a trip to China to find the adopted one's biological mother. Really fun, really raunchy. It's kind of like The Hangover, but, with 2 Asian women instead. Well, 4 Asian women, because it's a 4 Asian women lead. But it's really funny, produced by Seth Rogen, so check it out if you can. And then the last one is The Flash. And this might be a controversial opinion. I think it will be. If anybody has a problem with it, you know where to reach me. You know where to send the messages. But I thought it was a good movie.
That's it. You thought it was a good
No,
movie?
no, no. Well, I wanted. I was giving people, space to take that in. I think
By
it was a
people,
good
you
movie.
mean me or
Well,
the
you
audience?
and whoever else
Just
is
really anyone listening?
Yeah.
Just like they just need to process that for
Yeah.
30
Besides,
seconds or more.
besides questionable CGI, because there was a lot of questionable CGI in this. I don't know if it had to do with like Warner Brothers kind of just abandoning this DC universe.
They've always
completely.
had very sketchy CGI.
I was
Like,
never,
that's
I was
always
never a
been the
fan
case.
of the Snyder CGI either as well. So the CGI was very questionable, especially like I know everybody's seen the scene with the babies. That was questionable, and also the ending of it with all the different with all the different universes, different superheroes and all that in the other universes, definitely questionable. But I thought the plot itself was okay. Obviously taking from Flashpoint, and then the acting it had its funny moments. I'm not gonna say it's like the best superhero movie, but I don't know why people were shitting on it so much. I think they just they're kind of over the DCU respectively, but it wasn't that bad. It was okay.
okay movie.
People have to live with
Did you
things being
watch
okay.
the most recent? Did you watch the most recent Ant-Man movie?
No, not yet.
No. Okay.
It did make me want to watch Superman the animated series, so I think I will start watching that.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's a great series.
yeah,
Can I ask a spoiler question?
yes, because I don't think anybody else cares. So go ahead. If you do
Is
care, spoilers.
is is Flash putting a baby into the microwave, or
He
is he taking the baby out of the microwave?
So there's circumstances. He's taking the baby out of the microwave after putting it in the microwave. So
Whoa,
yeah, so
that's a mind fuck.
he had to rescue a lot of these babies, and then I forget the exact sequence, but he also uses a burrito to knock out some gas that's about to blow a baby up. So and then like he has to put the baby in the microwave so the impact doesn't hit him. It's some weird sequence, but he's
Okay, I
not.
just remember. I remember when the movie came out, and people were like spamming like memes of him like putting babies in the microwaves, and then they were like, "Oh, this fucking Ezra Miller is a piece of shit and puts babies in." And so I
Puts,
had like no, I was like, "What is going on?" Like, what?
Nobody puts baby in
What?
a microwave.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to know because I don't know if like maybe if I'm on a very long flight and I'm desperate for content and it's available on the flight, I think that might be the only time I would ever watch this movie.
Well, you don't
And
take
that's
my.
someone who's a huge
Yeah,
Keaton Batman fan, like
Keaton,
huge Keaton.
Keaton was good, and I believe Sasha Calle is the person who plays Supergirl. I think she was good as well. Ezra Miller surprisingly good as two different Flashes. One's super annoying, the other one's super annoying in a different way. So nailed that.
Mm.
Very surprising that this movie like made a lot of jokes that kind of reference indirectly his own personal life turmoils or their own because he like he's a day but just like I was like does he know what's happening to Day in real life? All the shit that they talk about mental health is like, oh, the Justice League should have a mental health thing. They're bad about that. I'm like, bro, you're bad about that. So it's just like really, really surreal. But yeah, surprise. Spoiler. Clooney's in there. Clooney Batman's in there.
Yeah, that got spoiled. That's the other thing. Like all like the cool stuff got
Oh, okay.
spoiled because of like Twitter and YouTube, and yeah. So I saw Clooney. I knew Bale wasn't going to be in it, so
Yeah. So that's how you know.
I wasn't. I didn't think Clooney was going to be in it either. So that was cool.
Yeah,
Little something, but
that was the most spoiler one. I was surprised at that one. So that's how you know the DC universe is dead when they bring Clooney in.
it would have been great if he like ripped his shirt off and he had like the hard nipple Batman suit because that was the big controversy for that movie was like him having
Wasn't it
the crazy nips.
Wasn't it also the American Express card?
What do you mean?
Didn't he pull out like a black American Express card, or that was like in a commercial for the movie? I don't know if it was in the movie or a commercial for the movie, but he had like a Batman black American Express card.
Oh, I mean, maybe it was just like a dumb marketing thing, but
Yeah.
in terms of the actual movie,
Batnips.
the first thing that comes, it's the bat nips.
All right, I think we've done enough talking about the Flash. But check it out if you haven't. Don't listen to people that say it sucks. Make your own opinion of it. I thought it was an okay movie. And then haven't been playing much except for Destiny 2. Bit of, we haven't really played Remnant this week. We've both been busy. So yeah, Destiny 2. Shout out to the clan.
Why are you acting so messed up towards me?
Well, you're doing shit, and I'm doing shit. We usually tell each other like, "Hey, Remnant 2," and then somebody says, "Yeah," and then we Remnant 2. But we'll
That's
get back. We'll get back to it. What about you? What you been up to?
Well, yeah, I mean, we haven't been playing Remnant because I've been playing Baldur's Gate. I think we did. It was basically like we had game night. I think maybe I didn't play games for a couple days. Then we had game night where we mainly played Diablo, Street Fighter, Rocket League, That's the Triforce of games
Sounds like a good game
that
night.
we kind of land on. Yeah. So that's always a good time. So, and then Baldur's Gate came out the following day. So kind of over the, call it the long weekend. I just been playing a ton of Baldur's Gate. So yeah, it's awesome. It's like the game just like looks incredible. It's fairly intuitive. Like I'm not a big Dungeons and Dragons guy, so all of the rules and all that stuff is kind of like over my head. But I think the game's intuitive enough to play, and it kind of like does it all for you. So yeah, it's fairly easy to play. Looks great. Performs very well. So chalk it up as a another like strong day one PC release, which is good to have because we've had a lot of really bad PC releases, in recent history. So that's good, and I'm sure being in early access for 3 years helped. So I'm glad I waited, but still kudos to them for having a successful launch. I didn't really hear, I think the game has like bugs here and there, and that's kind of like to be expected given how dynamic it is and how many options there are and stuff like that. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, nothing game breaking so far.
Yeah, and I think the other, in addition to this, I think just being like a little bit more streamlined for someone who's not like hardcore into these types of strategy games and not a D&D person. I think the one thing I figured out was because I think I get kind of bored by like if I'm doing like these like hour-long battles like all the time, uh it's like too much. So what I've kind of learned now is because I was hearing that the Bard class is like pretty fun and like pretty good in this game. I'm like, okay, let me play as a Bard, which I've literally never done in any game ever, and basically just try to be like this wily character and like always getting your like talk yourself out of situations and whatever, and like so I'm having a great time with that. So like I probably like halved the number of battles that I would need to do if I was playing as like a warrior or something like that.
You're just talking your
And
way out of shit.
just talk your way out of stuff and fuck around, like lying to people, and it's like it's great. So I'm having a really good, like I generally don't pay too much attention to like story and dialogue options, but I'm like super focused on this stuff, and the the outcomes of your interactions can like be so dramatically different. And I'm still like I think pretty early in the game, but every once in a while I've been save scumming like crazy. Like this is the scummiest save scumming I've ever done in a game, where I'm just like constantly loading my last save and like approaching situations in different ways. So since I've seen like the same situation play out in like 2 or 3 different ways, you're just like, oh my god, this is like changes the game. Like it's like, and I know this isn't the first game to do that, but I think this game just does it very very well, and I'm having a really fun time with it. So yeah, and I know you're very much an explorer and a looter, so I could see you actually getting into this.
Yeah, it does sound very appealing hearing you talk about it with all the options that you could do, like how different the world is and how you could do so many different things and lead you different ways. Also, the character creator looks pretty cool, and you can make a pretty awesome lizard person, and you can have sex with bears. So, you know, real freaky
I've I
shit.
haven't I haven't had I haven't encountered bear sex yet, but I did walk in on trolls a troll having intercourse with another larger troll, and I had to navigate that situation.
Mm. I'm
So
pretty sure
there's there's
they
some
were
there's some
mad.
interesting. I'm telling you, like anytime you go into a town, almost every NPC has like kind of like a unique thing going on. So Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
No, that sounds great. I might.
It has to win RPG of the year. Like, there's no fucking way. Like, if you were to imagine, like, what is an RPG? Like, it is this game. Like, there's like how could, and I know like Starfield's going to be the other like big, like I guess it's an RPG. Like, I don't, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be classified as an RPG, but I feel like it's going to be more kind of actiony adventure. But
Well, we'll have to see when our end of the year Game Award predictions. If you're right.
so Baldur's Gate 3 Game of the Year nominee for sure, and RPG of the Year for sure. Like, I feel pretty good about that.
Gotcha. Somebody timestamp that. Somebody remember that, because we will not. Oh, we might. 'Cause
I'll remember.
we're good at remembering dumb shit. But yeah, I might take a gander. It does seem very interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of
And
good.
there's co-op,
Oh,
which I haven't even played with yet.
oh wow. All right.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a
yeah,
lot of.
I've
It's a very big plate this year for games that have been really good and that we're really enjoying. So I might take a gander. Might be a little bit later though.
the only which I think is a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing depending on how you manage your time. But every time I've started playing this game, it'll be like 3 or 4 hours will go by, and I'll be like, "What?" Like, wait, like what? And then even like talking with my wife, where I'm like, "Wait, what is that? What time is it?" So it's like, it's very much like this time machine of, you get sucked into this world. There's like all this stuff you can do. There's this like tweaking your character and inventory management, and you know, it's a super deep game. So it pulls you in.
Damn, I might have another addiction. We'll see. All right. So that does it for us. Thank you guys for joining us on another episode 75. I'm always waiting for like
25 times 3.
yeah, I'm waiting for like a background of applause or something of hype.
Well, you know, just add it in post production.
Wrong one. You know what? I might not even try. I was trying to add the sound effects. Wrong ones. But thanks for joining us, guys. Make sure you guys check our website, pressingbuttons.gg. You have our link to our Discord. Come join the Pressing Buttons community. We are very welcome of everybody come in there and play all types of video games with everybody. Make sure you guys are following us on YouTube and Twitter. I still call it Twitter, fuck X. Instagram, Threads, wherever we are, if we're on there, make sure you guys are following us. We love the community. Leave a like, leave a comment. Make sure we get that exposure so we can make it big. And then we all make it big. And that's it for Pressing Buttons. I'm Hugo. Bye.
I'm Nick. Later.